But ladies and gentlemen, I bring you glad tidings from the Northeast. It's very important that you listen attentively to what I'm about to say. In the northeast corner of Nigeria, a tragedy has been unfolding for the past 9 years. A tragedy that has affected some of us in this room. A tragedy that has affected some people we know. For a lot of us, it is a tragedy that we see on television and read about on the pages of newspapers. But for some of us, we have had the benefit of having a front row seat in the face of this tragedy. There is Colonel K. Yusuf, whose armored tank was ambushed. He was brought out and slaughtered like a goat. Colonel Yusuf was married and he had kids. For 6 weeks, the Nigerian army looked for the body of him and his soldiers. They did not find him. He was declared MIA, meaning missing in action. At last, his body and that of other soldiers were found in the river in Maiduguri. Lieutenant Colonel K. Yusuf was a Nigerian officer, and a gentleman. There is also Yerima Abuaku, who left home on October 3, 2015. He was going to work. As I'm talking to you right now, Yerima Abuaku has not returned to his wife and kids. He's still missing in action. 3 years gone. No one knows what happened to him. No one knows what became of him. In the course of our work, we have also met No Name. No Name. Everyone in this room has a name, because when the chips are down, that is the only thing you have for yourself, your name. We met No Name at the Bulunkutu Rehabilitation Center, and no one in the house knew his name. The Bulunkutu Rehabilitation Center is a safe house for people who are not Boko Haram members, but they are suspected to be Boko Haram members. So they are profiled, and once it is discovered that they are not Boko Haram members, they are freed, and their relations are free to come and take them. But No Name had no one to come and take him. No Name did not even know his name, because he was suffering from post-traumatic issues arising from seeing his father and mother being killed when Boko Haram attacked their community. So because he had no caregiver, when we met him, he was playing in the dirt, and there was nobody to wash after him. There was nobody to take care of him. It now became our responsibility to take him to the neuropsychiatric hospital, where he was cleaned up and is now being treated. We gave him a name. We gave him Muhammad, because it is assumed that he was a Muslim, and every Muslim male is assumed to be a Muhammad. So he is today named Muhammad. There are thousands of stories like this in the Northeast, but I'll single out the educational sector. Kids have not been in school for the past 9 years in some communities in the Northeast. 2,295 teachers were killed in the course of the insurgency. I'll repeat that number again. 2,295 teachers were killed. 1,200 schools were destroyed. 1,500 schools were closed down because of the insurgency. This is the educational sector in the Northeast. We know about the Chibok abductions, the Dapchi abductions, the killings in Mamudo and Gujba, and all of that. This is a snapshot of what has happened in education. When you take livelihood, when you take healthcare, all the indices are the same. Why are we all going through this? Because of the phenomenon called Boko Haram. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is not all death, blood, and gloom. There is a silver lining on the horizon. The Northeast is witnessing a bounce back from the tragedies that have happened in that region. We have some good news. The government is reconstructing entire communities. If you go to Bama, Bama was once under Boko Haram control. We're rebuilding the entire community. We're rebuilding individual houses. We're rebuilding hospitals. We're rebuilding schools. The people have begun to go back to their communities. But there's trauma. The Shehu of Bama barely left with his life. He's still under trauma. He's finding it difficult to go back to Bama, even though the palace has been rebuilt. His wife was missing in action for almost 2 years. His mother barely made it out of Bama. These are individual stories. These are stories that we must come together to allow not to ever happen again. The international community have come. Friends from abroad have come. Nigerian NGOs have come. The state governments, the federal government are all putting their hands together to see that the Northeast bounce back. But it is very important that as the Northeast bounce back, we remember the words of Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi once said, "I like your Christ, but I do not like your Christians." If we profess to be true Muslims and true Christians, then we must act right by the dictates of our faith. We must act right. If we act right, what we saw in the Northeast will never have happened. The northeastern corner, coupled with Niger Republic, coupled with Chad, Cameroon, are the poorest countries in sub-Saharan Africa. This makes them the poorest countries in the entire world. Governance. The tragedy should be laid at the doorstep of governance. Every Nigerian deserves good governance. With good governance, the 2.5 million people that were displaced in the Northeast, it will never have happened. All of us this morning have had breakfast. For those of us who have not had breakfast, it is by choice. Perhaps we are dieting. In Maiduguri at the moment, they will not have breakfast until about 2 p.m. Why? Because the caterers have to feed 20,000 people in some particular camps. To cook for 20,000 people is not an easy task. Why are they in camps? These are people who had their livelihoods. These are people who had their communities. They're in camps because of Boko Haram. They're in camps because of the failure of governance. We must not allow this to happen again and again. There are signs that it could happen again and again. As citizens of Nigeria, we must stand up and demand good governance so that it doesn't happen. I would like to end by the saying of Zora Neale Hurston, and she says, "If you are silent about your pain, they will kill you and say you enjoyed being killed." Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, arise, the citizens of this country, demand good governance. Boko Haram should never be allowed to happen again. Thank you.